Hey, welcome back. I'm Ferrikster, here to bring you some more Pokemon Go GBL battles. These battles are in Little Cup. I thought that I had released this team before, but I went back over all the content I've made, and I actually never put a video out on Little Cup. I guess the first time we had Little Cup, it must have been before I was making content, which is crazy because I feel like I've been doing this for so long, but it turns out it's actually only been a year and 3 months. So go me. Not as old as I thought. Anyway, this is the team that I used last time Little Cup was here. I believe that was before the advent of XL Candy, so the Bronzor that I'm using on this team isn't even an XL Bronzor. It is still a really broken strong Pokemon that has play against everything, even its hard counters, even its really hard counters. Sometimes, with certain conditions, Bronzor can still stop those. And in the interest of running the team the way I always had, since I hadn't put a video out on this team before, I'm running it with Bronzor's original moveset of Confusion, Heavy Slam, and Psyshock. A lot of Bronzors now are running Payback, which makes the Bronzor mirror a lot more bearable. All the same, every time I end up in a Bronzor mirror, I'm going to increase the speed of the video up to 2 times, up from the normal 1.5, which is what I usually am at. So, my team. Oh, right. Actually, before I go into that, another thing. I didn't release a weekly challenge video this week because nobody did my last weekly challenge. And that's kind of my fault. I guess the challenge was too vague, and there just wasn't enough time to do it. So, yeah, I'm going to have a more specific challenge for this week, especially because Little Cup is here. And it's pretty easy to imagine what could make this, what could make Little Cup difficult. Especially because of how centered the meta is around a single Pokemon. So this is the cup that is more centralized on one Pokemon, and that Pokemon is Bronzor. More centralized around Bronzor than any other meta in any cup aside from Bidoof Cup, which is even more centered around Bidoof because Bidoof. So this cup is almost like that, in that, you know, Bronzor is almost as common as Bidoof was in Bidoof Cup. I'd say almost a third as common, but all the same has a very, very heavy influence on the meta. The meta is basically 100% Bronzor and Bronzor counters, and 1 or 2 things that counter the Bronzor counters and in the process get completely destroyed by Bronzor itself. So, I'm opening with Seal. In the back, I have a Shelmet, and I have a Bronzor, because Bronzor is unbelievably strong and has play against most things, even its counters. So, yeah, I like Seal on the lead. It can force its way into switch advantage against a lot of things, or at least pull a shield out if it's not going to do that. I kind of forgot how to play this team that well, so these first 2 games don't go over that cleanly. But these are literally just the first 2 sets that I played with this team, and I feel like it's going to be kind of instructive anyway if you're not familiar with this cup, just because you'll get to see Bronzor doing Bronzor things. So I bring Seal out into Bronzor, and Seal actually will lose the zeros against Bronzor, just even going straight Aqua Tail, not baiting or anything, just even though the licks are super effective and Bronzor is hitting Seal for neutral. Seal, by the way, as a reminder, is a pure water type. It doesn't have an ice subtyping, so you know, not taking super effective damage from any of the things that would do super effective damage against that, and I actually resist fire altogether instead of taking neutral from it, which is actually kind of important because fire is sort of common-ish, I guess. Vulpix is kind of a somewhat meta Pokemon because it actually can beat Bronzor in slightly more situations than in which Bronzor can beat Vulpix. So generally favorable matchup for Vulpix, which is enough to get it onto a couple of people's squads. Anyway, all right, let me just cast these games. So my opponent here is opening with Cottony, and the problem with Cottony is that Cottony super dies to Bronzor, so there's got to be two very hard counters to Bronzor in the back. Somehow there's a seal in the back, which isn't a hard counter to Bronzor at all. So I don't know why I would say that. And then it turns out my first opponent isn't adhering to that thought process. I don't know what they do against a Bronzor lead. But yeah, they've got a seal in the back, and that is fine. So I landed the Bug Buzz and then baited a Body Slam, got a shield, and now I'm just gonna throw the next Bug Buzz. If they want to shield that, I'm fine with it. And I would probably just let them take switch advantage if that were the case, just because. I mean, you know, my Bronzor is kind of a wall to Cottony, so wouldn't really be that much of an issue. And if they had taken me out, and I would have just come in with my seal loaded up on energy, because seal with energy can also take on a shieldless Cottony. So going straight Bug Buzz against Bronzor makes sense. Bug hits Bronzor for neutral. And actually does pretty respectable damage. I mean, how I came upon using Seal and Shelmet is that they both have play against Bronzor. Every Pokemon on your team, with few exceptions, should have play against Bronzor, if not, you know, being a dedicated counter to it. But I have my Bronzor lined up with this Cottony, so I'm kind of just going to Confusion the whole way down. No need to shield this. Cottony only learns Grass-type charge moves, so Grass Knot is the heavier hitting one, but you never know it from the damage Bronzor takes. And then my opponent's going to bring out their own Bronzor, and they are going to resist this Heavy Slam, but it, you know, it hits for single resisted, whereas Side Shock, while more efficient energy-wise, is double resisted by Bronzor, so don't throw that. And this opposing Bronzor has payback, so that actually makes it a very hard counter to my Bronzor. Regardless, I was just waiting for them to throw that energy, and now I can bring in my Seal. And I don't really have to worry about getting KO'd at this point. Like, it doesn't even really make too much sense to go for the Icy Wind here to debuff. I mean, I'm going to be able to lick down regardless, and I'm easily going to be able to survive this Psyshock, whether I had debuffed them or not, as you can see. And, yeah. Just going to lick down, and my opponent is going to get out right before their Bronzor faints. So that's GG. Alright. Next up, Seal in the Mirror. So, the Seal that I'm using is rank like 200 and something. But it comes out pretty close to 500. So, against most other Seals, I'll win CMP. And that's not like by design. It's just this is the Seal that I already had made. Because, you know, the first time we had Little Cup, it was a surprise because they had never had a cup with 500 CP Pokemon, and, you know, there wasn't really that much time to prepare, so whatever the best Seal that I had lying around was the Seal that I made. So this one's ranked 200 and something, so I'm winning CMP with it, which is something. It's enough to flip the Seal matchup. Not really the most ideal thing, and I was going to end up throwing something, but then decided, you know what, I should probably try to make a catch instead and bank that energy, and my opponent had the same idea. Switched in an Alolan Vulpix, which learns Dark Pulse, so, you know, does have play against Bronzor. Bronzor would still win the zeros, and I think any even shield matchup against Vulpix. But my Shelmet is going to be fine. I can throw this next Body Slam. I get a shield. Get my what's this bug move called? My gosh. Get my Infestation through. Yeah, and I'm going to be able to throw this next Body Slam. That's going to take out the Vulpix. They can come in with their Seal if they want to, but they would have to throw their energy, so they decide to save their energy, and they're going to come in with a Snorunt instead, which is a pure Ice type also. So I'm just going to throw Body Slam because I'm not going to reach my Bug Buzz, and I am going to get Powder Snowed down, and that's fine. I know Snorunt can learn Shadow Ball, So I'm going to send out Seal, actually, and throw my my Aqua Tail right away. If they had wanted to throw something right away, they could have. And then I switch out and Confusion down their Seal before they have a chance to throw their move. Snoru's going to come back out, and I'm going to let this go because I want to see how much it does, and it does that much, which is, you know, about half. 2 of those would be enough to KO me, so I'm going to shield here, and this will probably end up being an Icy Wind bait, and that's what it is, but that's fine. At this point, I have reached my Psyshock. It takes 4 Confusions to reach, and for what it's worth, it's very easy to count out how much damage a Bronzor's Psyshock will do, because a Psyshock will do as much as the 4 Confusions that it took to build up the energy to the Psyshock. So however much those 4 Confusions didn't damage, the Psyshock is going to do about that. So, Chinchou lead. Wasn't expecting to see any of these in this cup because I don't remember them being common in the last one, but I guess this is something that someone made for Element Cup and decided to try out. So I'm going to let this first move go because, you know, I know that Chinchou can learn Bubble Beam, and shielding a Bubble Beam just hurts too much, so I'd rather just take the Thunderbolt. And they're going to bring out an Alolan Sandshrew, which resists all of Shelmet's moves. So after throwing the 1 Body Slam, I decide to throw the Bug Buzz. They let that go, and yeah, at this point, 1 more Body Slam would be enough to KO. But they're going to throw the energy, and I'm just going to let that go because I'm going to be able to come in with Seal, farm down. Unfortunately, I am going to have to eat 1 of these Night Slashes, but they didn't boost on their first one, so not really that big of a deal. We're still in the 2 shield, but I actually think Bronzor is stronger when shields are already down. I'm going to end up sending my Bronzor in here, and yeah, there's a Nincada in the back. So Nincada learns Night Slash, and this one gets the boost immediately off of the first one, which is unfortunate for me, but it's not the end of the world. Since we are in the multi-shield here, I'm going to be able to just kind of do my Confusion damage, which actually does chunk Nincada because Nincada's isn't resisting them, and it doesn't have like Bronzor's level of thickness. So I'm going to throw my next Psyshock. This is also going to force the last shield, and I'm going to try to switch out and make a catch on Seal, and they did not throw anything. But that makes sense because, you know, they were probably expecting that I was going to do that. So I throw the Icy Wind here, debuffing them. They're going to throw a couple of Sparks, and they could be at the Thunderbolt here. I decide to shield this, and it is the Thunderbolt, so good for me. Do some more licks. Some of these Sparks seem like they're coming in a little faster than they should be. A little faster than 2 turns, but alright. I land my Aqua Tail, and another lick goes through, and I manage to take them out. Nincada's going to come back out, but it's going to have to throw its energy, and now that Nincada's not boosted anymore, this Night Slash is, while it's still going to be enough to take out Seal, a Night Slash when you're not boosted isn't enough to take out Bronzor, but I Confusion them down before they're able to reach one of those anyway, so that is a GG. Yeah, Nincada, I mean, just, you know, it's not like any Pokemon that has a Dark move for coverage, or a Ground move for coverage, or a Fire move for coverage. It's not enough to be a Bronzor counter. Bronzor is just it has so much survivability in this cup. It's like, oh, you need like a hard counter to have a chance against Bronzor, and Bronzor will still do tons and tons of damage on its way down. It's ridiculous. So my opponent here swaps into Vullaby, and I end up throwing an Aqua Tail, which I don't know why I would do that. I should at least have stayed in until I could have thrown an Icy Wind, or maybe thrown the Icy Wind, and I end up no-shielding a Foul Play, which is kind of a risky play. Vullaby learns Foul Play and Brave Bird. So before they reach their next Brave Bird, I'm just going to throw this Body Slam. This will KO. If they decide to shield, then I'll Mirror Shield, but they decide not to. And then Nincada's going to come back out, and that's fine. If I can land a Bug Buzz, that would do tremendous damage. But after they throw the Night Slash, it's clear I'm not going to be able to make it there, so I'm just going to spam out this Body Slam to at least do some chip damage. Not a bunch, but I've taken the Nincada down to about half, which is pretty good. Seal's going to come back out, and they're going to switch out into a Dino. So, Dino is... I mean, it's a counter to Bronzong in that it's a Dark type. A counter to Bronzor in that it's a Dark type. But since Bronzor is also resisting the the Dragon Breath damage. And even though Confusion is double resisted by Dino, Dino doesn't have Bronzor's bulk. So I'm going to end up shielding that Body Slam. I make it to the Icy Wind. I'm going to throw this. This would obviously KO. Honestly, an Aqua Tail would nearly KO, and then I'm going to send Bronzor in. They build up some energy before switching out to Nincada. I'm going to throw my Psyshock right away, which is maybe a mistake. Should have built up a little bit more energy first. Because now they're going to throw this Night Slash, which is going to do some decent damage. I'm still not quite in crunch range yet, though, so the Dino's going to come back out. It's going to throw its crunch. It's not going to be enough to take me out, and I'm going to be able to reach a Heavy Slam after one more Confusion, and that's going to be enough to take out this Dino. I guess this is, like, Dino used to be kind of the counter to Bronzor, even though it's not really that hard of a counter. Like if Bronzor has an energy lead, or then it can definitely flip that matchup. Not so with a Pokemon like Shadow Stunky with Bite. Shadow Stunky with Bite is an actually pretty hard Bronzor counter, although Bronzor I think still wins the zeros anyway, just because you can land a Heavy Slam. That's just how Bronzor is. Just, I don't know. Sometimes can beat even its hard counters, but that's fine. I kind of think of Bronzor sometimes as being like two Pokemon, and my other two Pokemon are two Pokemon. So it's like a team of four. Like if I can take out the opponent's Bronzor with just one of my Pokemon, then I feel like I'm ahead. So here they switch their Bronzor in to a Shubbit with a little bit of energy. I throw the Bug Buzz and I get the Defense Fall. So this is already going pretty well. I'm going to end up shielding the Psyshock, which, I don't know, maybe not necessary, because I definitely would have survived it, and I'm going to throw my next Bug Buzz. This Bronzor is getting kind of low already. Somehow they got a jump on that Confusion, so they're able to throw a Confusion, and I only got one Infestation in, and they switch out and catch my next Bug Buzz on their Cottony. This is hitting Cottony for neutral. Fairy resisting bug. Get the Defense Fall. Not that that really makes any difference. I'm going to bring my Bronzor out and farm the whole way down, and my opponent resigns the game. That is a GG. Bronzor is a very, very hard counter to Cottony. All right, next up. Seal into Dino, and did I forget to speed up this video? Oh my gosh, I did. Oh my gosh, we're gonna watch a video. We're gonna watch a battle at normal speed. I am so sorry. Yeah, so Seal into Dino. Well, I'm gonna shield the first move, which implies that I'm going to be going for the Icy Wind, because, the whole point of shielding the first move is so that their second move, when it hits you, they're already debuffed. So I'm very likely to get a shield here, because normal behavior would dictate that I'd be throwing the Icy Wind. But the only reason I'm not doing that is because if I just go straight Aqua Tail, then I can slightly outpace Dino. So I'm going to shield the second Body Slam also. At this point, an Aqua Tail is actually enough to take them out. Like, I don't even need the Icy Wind anymore. So if they decide to shield this, that's fine. I will be able to reach another Aqua Tail before I faint, just barely, though. I'm not sure if maybe Dino does reach its third move at the same speed, or if they were just going for the farm down, assuming that I wouldn't make it to the Aqua Tail. But I do just barely manage that, even with my Seal, which doesn't have, like, perfect IVs. It's ranked, like, 200 and something. And a Vulpix comes out, which is pretty bad. I mean, Vulpix is a Fire type, and Fire is super effective against both of the Pokemon that I have in the back. I'm going to spam out my Psyshock as soon as I reach it. They've been throwing all of these Embers, and it's done quite a bit of damage, and now they're going to hit me with a Weather Ball, which is also hitting for super effective. That brings me down a bit, but I didn't quite, and then they switch out to try to make a catch on their Sandshrew, on their Alolan Sandshrew, which would have resisted my Psyshock, so instead I'm just going to throw this Heavy Slam. It hits for neutral, does decent damage. And I switch out to try to catch a Night Slash, but they weren't actually throwing it. Alolan Sandshrew could be knowing Blizzard, but the more common move is Gyro Ball. This one has Gyro Ball, and that's fine. I build up a little bit of extra energy, and unfortunately they make it to another move. So terrible counting on my part. Would have been a lot better if I had avoided being hit with that Night Slash. I build up as much energy as I can, and now I'm going to throw my Body Slam. This still leaves me with enough energy for a Bug Buzz. And the Body Slam is just barely enough to take them out. I throw the Bug Buzz here because I'm only going to be able to throw one move, and Bug Buzz, even though it's resisted, and Body Slam is neutral, Bug Buzz will still do slightly more damage, and since it's the only move I was going to be able to throw. Was hoping also maybe I could get the debuff off. Regardless, they're going to throw their one Ember and reach the Weather Ball, and that is going to be just barely enough to take my Bronzor out. If I had an XL Bronzor or just a Bronzor with better IVs, maybe could have flipped that game, but 500,000 dust and a lot of XL candy is a lot to invest in a Pokemon that you only really use in one cup, even though it's the most meta Pokemon possible in that cup, and in a season where there's no like actual ranks. So, you know, a lot of investment. I'm probably just going to stick with the Bronzor that I've got. So my opponent switches in a Wooper. I stay in for a while with Seal, throw my Aqua Tail, get a shield, and now I switch out to my Shelmet. And even though this is a Shadow Wooper, I'll still be able to survive 2 Body Slams. So not too concerned about that. That goes through. Now my Body Slam is going to go off, and I do still have like some energy remaining, so I expect them to let that go. Wooper survives, and they actively swap out into Vulpix, so that's fine. Since I had residual energy, I'm able to reach this Body Slam to kind of stall out the clock a little bit. Not going to be enough for me to be able to switch out, but I end up getting Embered the rest of the way down, and that's fine. Gonna bring out Seal. This is probably going to be a Body Slam. Vulpix's normal move set is Body Slam and Weather Ball, and since they both cost exactly the same, there's never any need for a Vulpix to bait. Gotta throw the Aqua Tail to prevent myself from having to shield another move, and they let it go. So this is fine. I mean, I still have my Bronzor. I've seen their Wooper. Wooper comes back out. I lick the whole way down, and then they come out with an Alolan Sandshrew. I go for the Icy Wind here, which doesn't make a ton of sense, to be honest. And I stay and do about as many licks as I can before I have to switch out and transfer a Powder Snow over onto Bronzor. They have built up quite a bit of energy, which is unfortunate, but like even my resisted confusions are absolutely chunking here. And since they have a shield left over, and you know, their Night Slash isn't going to be enough, I'm just saving my shield in case they get a boost. Although even at this point, if they did get a boost, I still wouldn't have to shield anything, just because, you know, the double boost only increases the damage by 50%. So not nearly enough to take Bronzor out. Bronzor just confusions the whole way down. That is a GG. Alright. Seal into Cottony. So this isn't fantastic, but I do want to switch out into Shelmet, hoping that they'll switch out so that I can perhaps get my Bronzor aligned with their Cottony, or at least have Seal with an energy lead before Cottony starts charming it. So my opponent has a Litleo. They're going to shield the first Body Slam. They sneak in an extra Ember when I throw this Body Slam, so I might not make it to my next Body Slam, and I don't. Although if I had not gone for Fast Move Denial and instead Fast Move Timing, then I would have been able to reach that. So that's kind of a sloppy play on my part. Like, I could have played that a little cleaner. Regardless, going to bring Seal out. My opponent ends up throwing a Flame Charge bait, so I'm going to shield this one. And it's another Flame Charge bait. Kind of expected them both to be crunches. But that's alright. It's fine. So I'm going to lick the whole way down. And now I have energy for when Cottony comes back out, if Cottony comes back out. So just going to spam out an Icy Wind. Throw a few licks, and throw my next Icy Wind as soon as I can afford it. If they let this go, then they'll be down to the last Pokemon. I was trying to switch out and catch this grass knot, or this seed bomb on my on my Bronzor, but yeah, didn't actually manage that. And there is a Wooper in the back, which looks like it would be a hard counter to Bronzor. You know, Mud Shot, Mud Bomb, all super effective. I'm just hitting with neutral confusions and going to try to get my way up to a neutral Psyshock. So second Mud Bomb lands, and I've reached my Psyshock, so I'm going to throw this one. And since I was able to sneak a confusion through earlier, I already have another one banked. Although I think there's still 3 away, so even if I didn't have one banked, I would have been able to throw one confusion, and then the next one. Cottony's going to come back out, and I am just going to confusion the whole way down because Bronzor is really, really ridiculously strong, and it just, you know, took out a Wooper in the zeros, even though Wooper's kind of there to be a hard counter to Bronzor. It's just, you know, Bronzor is just really, really, really strong in this cup. So yeah, wrapped up that set with a nice 4 out of 5. I get a Frillish, which is fine. And I go up not at all. And into this next game. I think this is actually the last game, and the only reason I'm even including this one is just to make a harder point. Like, they bring in a Squovit, which has the same moveset as the adult form, Bullet Seed, Body Slam, Crunch. And just because a Pokemon has Crunch, just because a Pokemon has a Dark coverage move, or a Ground coverage move, or a Fire coverage move, it's just not enough. Like, you have to have... you know, you kind of have to be doing very heavy damage with like stab and a super effective move, or like be double resisting confusion. Because here, like, I don't have to shield anything, and yeah, Bronzor is just going to be able to take Squovit out. Just, you know, my Bronzor, it's not even XL. They, you know, they get in most of an extra Bullet Seed there, and that's fine. I throw my next Psyshock, it nearly KOs, and they actively swap out into Vulpix to try to go for a snipe. I bring out Seal, and, I mean, I still have 2 shields. Their Vulpix is going to be taken out by this. They're going to be able to reach a move, and I'm just going to let this go, because, I don't know, like, you know, just kind of double-checking to see how much Body Slam even does. They have a Bite Stunky in the back, which is an actually hard counter for Bronzor. But yeah, I have that lined up with my Seal. I could do some of that damage, and now I'm going to be able to bring out Shelmet, which is hitting this Dark Poison for neutral with Bug-type damage. Just going to be able to reach the Bug Buzz, and that is going to take them out, and that's going to be GG. Just, you know, you need, like, you need hard Bronzor counters to take out a Bronzor. But yeah, I just wanted to throw in that last game there. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to do the things you know you're supposed to do at the ends of videos. You know you're supposed to do them. Please do them. Oh, and the weekly challenge for this week, since I didn't have a weekly challenge, I guess I'll just announce it at the end of this video, is to send me a complete set, GBL, where you play Little Cup, and where you play with no fire, no ground, no darks, and no Bronzor. So, kind of, you know, takes away all of the hardest counters to Bronzor, and taking away Bronzor itself. It's going to be difficult, but I think it'll be an interesting team-building challenge to how to account for the Bronzors that you are almost guaranteed to see without any of the typical hard counters to it. Anyway, yeah. I guess that's it. Thanks again. I'll see you when I see you.